Hello and welcome to the Story Engine podcast. My name is Kyle Gray, and today on the show we have Chris Van Loan II. Chris is going to be talking about the careful art and science that goes into capturing magical moments at events and moments of transformation that leaders and coaches and entrepreneurs are making every day, and how capturing the magic is almost as important as the magic itself. We're going to be talking about his evolution from becoming a simple wedding photographer doing tasks to learning how to really engineer stories and how he's using that to serve entrepreneurs at a absolutely higher level. So without any further ado, let's hand it over to Chris Van Loan II. Chris Van Loan II, welcome to the Story Engine podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me.
I am excited to have you on the show today. You are brilliant in the creative world. We've gotten to talk a couple of times, and you've recently gone through a transformation of your own that I'm excited to discover and share with our audience today. But for those of us who don't know you yet, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you're showing up in the world today?
Yeah, sure. So where do I begin? I really came to this video marketing world coming from film school and being a lover of storytelling and media. And I've been working with entrepreneurs specifically for about 15 years. And today I run Luminary Media here out of Austin, Texas, where I really work with mission-driven entrepreneurs to help them tell their story, grow their audience, bring in leads, sell their high ticket offers. And it's really been the passion of my life. I love it. I was just telling someone this week that if $100 million showed up into my account tomorrow, I feel like I'd be doing the same thing, just at like a higher level.
I love it. And you've been working with these people for a long time and helping them tell their story and like creating media. Where has this, or like what's the evolution of this been over the years? How did you get started? How's the shape of how you help these people tell their story changed over the course of years?
The way it started really is I got recruited into this agency and I fell in love with marketing through watching Gary Vaynerchuk, just sitting on the couch watching his daily vlog and then getting into Robert Cialdini's influence. And it was very counter to my original story around kind of being like this starving artist kind of mindset that I felt like I was trapped in. I kind of looked down on business and marketing. And then I started to realize it was more rewarding than my narrative work and my documentary work was creating media for people that helps them communicate, grow their business, hire more people, put their kids through college. And it's been a long journey since. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question? I was kind of just focusing on the origin.
No problem. How has it evolved and shifted over the years?
I guess you could say when you're first getting started, I used to also be a wedding guy doing wedding videos for 3 years. You kind of pick up a camera, you fall in love with the moving image and capturing moments, and you're like, how do I make some money with this camera? And so it shifted from me doing tasks for people, which is like, hey, Chris, I'm doing this. Can you come shoot it? Can you come capture this?
Mm-hmm.
Really shifting to realizing that I love to capture authenticity and vulnerability with the people I work with in a way that is authentic, but not vulnerable for the purpose of creating like vulnerability porn in some sort of like cheesy self-serving way. Everyone's authenticity looks a little bit different. And so that's what I really love today is capturing moments.
And so it started as doing tasks, which was still capturing moments, you moving around and looking around, and then helping people tell their story. This is like within a moment, and a moment specifically being kind of an event container. Now, before we got on the call, it sounds like this is shifting or evolving again to not just capturing moments within a single container, but maybe engineering the effect of authenticity or consistently in many moments across many years in a strategy. Can you tell us about this next level that you're stepping into and what's inspired it?
Yeah, I feel like I've been deep in the trenches for a while now, doing a piece of a whole like a freelancer. And I used to actually take a lot of pride in thinking of myself as a mercenary. You know, the whole idea of being like a literal freelancer, where the term originates from, where it's like your lance is rented out, or you're like a Ronin samurai who's brought on. And man, sorry, I lost my train of thought here. Hold on.
Yeah,
Sorry, I feel like this usually goes smoother.
quite all right. We're good. So you've gone from doing tasks, capturing whatever moment comes up in an event, to really being somebody who could be trusted to not just capture, but engineer authenticity and vulnerability inside of a moment, inside of an event, and tell a story. And now it sounds like, from what I heard before we started recording, and I'm excited to share now, is stepping into an even higher level of consistently engineering and mastering and telling the story of authenticity and vulnerability for companies, for brands, for leaders, not just within a single event, but over a longer period of time.
Yeah, you know, to be honest with you, some of this is just really born out of frustration, where people are bringing me on for events or for social media or whatever the thing is. And, you know, I remember one time I was flown out to Atlanta to film a 3-day mastermind. It's like a $30,000 annual program. And we were doing some video testimonials with the attendees and started interviewing people about what this group really meant to them. And I'll never forget, this woman said she flew in across the world from Australia, talked about how this was the only place she really felt seen and heard and accepted, and started crying, talking about what this group meant to her. And I love the personal development side of media. Essentially, I've been on my own personal development journey through the media that I consume, and I want to invite other people to come on that journey as well. But those moments were never seen. The emotions that were captured were kind of buried under, which is like, yeah, that stuff is great, Chris. But look, people are joining this group because they want a good return on investment. And so some of it's been born just out of frustration, where it's like, I want more creative control. I'm trying to document reality, capture the good, present the good to the world, condense like a documentarian what is actually happening in the world, and share it. But I've been feeling like I need more creative control.
Can you tell me about the people that you work with now and some of the problems and challenges that they face, that you help solve, not just within the moment of an event, but what you want to do across a longer period of time?
Sure. I mean, one of my favorite clients I've been working with is Joe Stolte here in Austin, Texas, and he teaches AI to entrepreneurs. And one of the things that's been really fun is actually capturing the dynamic Q&A interactive moments that are happening in these events. Sometimes 10 people, 12 people, sometimes 50 people. And it's really interesting to capture the person in the audience who has the question, and also the person at the front of the room who is sharing wisdom to, in this case, solve their problems, scale their business through AI, save more time with AI, and just how exciting it is to be on the cutting edge of that. And so there is the event itself, but then there is the telling of the story around putting it together, around letting people feel what it's like to be in that room from afar. And so, of course, like with a lot of things in this world, there's kind of an ascension that goes to the next level of support. In the premium offer, in the mastermind, in the ultra premium offer, where it's more of a done for you service instead of done with you service. And for example, one of the things I'm super excited about is we're going to do a jet day where we get on a private jet. I've never been on a private jet before, so excited about that. Let's say about 12 of us are going to go from Austin to San Diego, do a workshop, and then come home together. And it's really interesting how they were transparent with me and saying, hey, Chris, if we didn't have you to document this, we may as well not even do it. The media is a crucial point of doing the whole thing. Everybody wants to have that kind of once in a lifetime trip memorialized so they can share with their audiences, with their friends, with their family. And so I see it as a great challenge, but also a lot of fun to start thinking about, like, how do I tell that story? What is the narrative structure? What is kind of the arcs within that, and also what are the emotions around that? Capturing people's frustrations, and also how they go from point A to point B on this trip, but also in this sort of group. And ultimately, what I've noticed is, like, I'm very bullish on live events. Is that people think they're joining for the tactics and strategy, but so often, what we're really getting together for is to be supported by other human beings.
So, if I were to synthesize this into problems, it would be that for many of the people that you work with, there are incredible things happening that they're doing, maybe on a daily basis, maybe not quite on a daily basis, but there's magic buzzing around everywhere and incredible things happening. And if it's not being captured, or then a lot of the value of that is lost. And of course, we love to serve people. Of course, the people that were on the plane really got a great experience, but we're missing out on really being able to share and showcase that value. And it's not exclusively that. It's pretty obvious for a private jet day flying back and forth. But I think another deeper problem is that most people don't quite recognize when those moments are happening. And if you're in the moment and creating and kind of in your own flow, to pull out your camera and try to capture it yourself can disrupt it. And you want somebody who can recognize and see and engineer when those moments happen and recognize when those moments are happening, and to be able to support you in capturing those. Because I could imagine Joe could be so excited having this day and like planning it all out and having people come back and forth, and only by the end of it realizing, wow, I wish we would have filmed that. And it didn't happen in that case, but it's probably happening for a lot of people out there.
Yeah, I mentioned that I spent 3 years in weddings, which it's ironic. It's funny how you can only kind of connect the dots looking backwards. I didn't understand that would be useful time. Sometimes it's like, oh, it's just figuring things out. And, but really, I think part of what you're speaking to is there's a level of emotional intelligence that, like, nobody ever teaches you about, in which sometimes you have to be an invisible fly on the wall who is, like, seen and not heard, and is like a little bit of a ninja. There's times where you have to kind of engineer situations to create moments for the camera. And there's times where you have to, like, take control, where, like, hey, let's get a group photo of the 50 you guys. Squeeze in. Okay, I can't see your head. Come on through here. So it's interesting how everything has kind of come together, where, I mean, and here's an interesting side note for you is I'm also only 5'9", 150 pounds. So there's ways in which me having more of a slender stature and build has been also a gift in this whole world. Because, like I said, there's times where I want to be kind of unseen and sneaky and move around silently and not draw too much attention to myself. So it's funny how life kind of works out like that.
I think another thing that you mentioned is there's a difference between what people come for and what people stay for. And people often miss the point of what the biggest value is that people like Joe are putting on. And so it's on somebody like you to give them both, of showing them that they are going to get what they think they want, and showing them that there's a much bigger picture and a much higher value thing that they can look forward to beyond that.
Yeah, I always think about how, you have to coat the broccoli in cheese, or, if you want to give a pill to your dog, you put it in some meat.
Mm-hmm.
There are some influencers who use Lamborghinis and hot girls to kind of get you their foot in the door in order to, drop some knowledge and wisdom into your mind. And I think that takes a lot of different forms. And I definitely have to be aware of both. I've done a lot also in kind of the personal development. Like, Mind Valley was my biggest client for a year and a half with Ajit Nwalka and Vishen, and done some work with men's work and retreats. And I'm also aware that, hey, if you see an ad where it's just like a bunch of dudes crying and hugging each other, there's a lot of guys who are like, I'm not interested in that. They have to discover that in real life when they get there.
I can think of that particularly with like breath work experiences where people are just sitting with blindfolds, breathing really hard, and it doesn't look like it's that much fun. Okay. So we've gotten a couple. Are there any other like pain points that you think are important to be expressed or explored, or did we cover them?
I know this sounds crazy at this point in my life, but I guess you could say there's a pain point around my own kind of like self-conception and how I view myself and what I believe is possible for my own life. And I was talking with a good friend of mine, a business coach, James Golden, and he was like, "Man, you don't need any more social proof. You worked at capitalism.com for 3 years. You've worked with Mind Valley, Joe Stolte, you filmed 6 4-rooms events. Like, you can start charging more. You can just start demanding whatever you want to do in life." And the imposter syndrome for me kind of goes way back to trying to have people think of me as more than just a videographer. And I think I have mostly been successful in that, but there are times where I'm like, feel out of place, or I
Hmm.
feel like I need to level up my thinking, or I still have self-limiting beliefs that I'm trying to move past. Which is funny because that's kind of like the whole purpose of my life is to help other people move past their own self-limiting beliefs through media. Like in a lot of ways, I think we're attracted to what we do, not because we have mastered or moved past what we're struggling with, but because like I haven't reached the peak of that mountain yet, and I'm trying to help other people move past their limiting beliefs. And I still have more work to do there myself.
I get it. I'm in the exact same boat. Tell me on that note, though, what do you think are some of the things that you do or believe differently or do differently that gets people the results better, faster, or more magically? What's unique about your process and your way of doing things?
Yeah, it's interesting. What comes to mind for me is really just my own genuine curiosity and care. Another kind of synonym for care here is just love for the people that I've decided to work with on a deep level. And so I think sometimes that shows up in interviewing them, in the questions I ask, and the testimonials I conduct. And so there's always going to be some AI prompt you can do that's going to generate questions or media or clips for you. But I feel like there's no replacement for like looking someone in their eyes. And let's say you set them up with a couple of warm up questions, and then you take a left turn that they didn't expect, and it pulls some truth out of them that they didn't even know was in there. And so sometimes that's been a hard thing to articulate, but it ultimately just comes from the fact that like I care and I give a shit. When I do research for a potential client, I'm doing an extremely deep dive into their YouTube, into their podcast. I'm kind of reading between the lines of what is not being said. So, for example, I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel like they need to put on a persona and say what they think their audience wants them to say. But then I'll hear a story about how they did a 5 minutes of stand-up comedy at a local stand-up, and that was so much more rewarding for them than anything they've done in the last year. And you go, well, do you think you're being creatively fulfilled and maybe you should like flex that comedy muscle more in your content instead of just like the 3 steps to make $1 million or whatever content you're doing?
I love it. Good ones. Okay, Chris, maybe this is the moment that you were already hinting at with James, but I'm curious about a time in your life where you were experiencing similar things. Maybe you weren't capturing your own value and you were recognizing that, like that your value was being lost, or people were missing the point of what was really great about you. Maybe you were missing your own point in experiencing your own limiting beliefs about what was valuable, what was magic. I think James saying you don't need any more social proof is a great thing. Do you have any other like specific moments, or is that the moment where you were really feeling like your value wasn't being recognized by yourself or the world around you?
Well, what comes to mind for me was a little while back, but these things stick with you. I mentioned when I was working at a media agency, I was first getting into this entrepreneur world. And even back then, the founder of that company was bringing in other people for more high-end cinematography, for more high-end photography, for sales. And it felt like my potential wasn't being seen, or like I wasn't really being given a chance. And I talked about this in one of my YouTube videos I put out recently, but that was a really interesting chapter of my life because part of my compensation for working for that media agency was rent in the founder's house. So they said, hey, we can't pay you that great right now, but I'll give you a free room in this house. And it led to a lot of very blurry lines around a boss employee kind of relationship, around being friends. And it just led to a lot of frustration where eventually I had to leave. And it was kind of like a rough breakup.
Was there a specific awkward moment you can recall of maybe they brought in this high-end photographer and then you came home and your boss is there at home, or maybe you're home and the boss came home and there was like a moment of tension?
Yeah, I mean, I got a deep one for you. I think this is interesting because there was also sometimes 4 or 5 employees all living under the same roof. So there's me and my friend Gilbert are there eating P. Terry's burger around the dinner table. And we've been working all day, kind of worked a 9 to 5 shift. And then we had a video shoot after that. We get home like 9 or 10 o'clock. And then there's the boss and his wife like grilling us about like, oh, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you meet this person? Did you give him your card? And we had just had enough. We had like, that was just a real moment of a division between, it felt like the founder of the company and us as the employees of the company, where it really kind of exploded into an argument because, I don't know, it had already been a 12 or 14-hour day. We get home, which should be a safe space, and we're still getting grilled. Like we're at work and we're getting like a quarterly evaluation or something.
What room did this occur in?
This was like in the dining room kitchen.
Describe the dining room kitchen.
It was an older house from the 70s, so everything is wood panel. Wood, just all brown. Brown table, brown walls, almost this like vintage linoleum kind of feel. We had 5 cats in the house, so kind of hard to have the house not smell a little bit like cat pee. A little bit embarrassed to have like visitors over at this point. So it was a real time where I felt a little trapped. I wasn't dating. Like I said, I was embarrassed to like have people over.
Mm-hmm.
And there was times where it felt like almost more like indentured servitude.
Tell me about an opposite moment of a time where you were really being recognized and you were giving your very best love and care for people, your genuine curiosity, and you saw this magic coming forward and unfolding in those that you worked with. And also it was like you felt seen in your own life.
Well, let me tell you about an awesome event I did here in Austin for Matt Clark's amazing.com. This was really fun because got to do one of my favorite little projects, favorite deliverables, which is the immediate turnaround highlights video.
Oh, yeah.
There's something incredibly satisfying about that because it feels like magic. It feels when you're in a room of like 300 people and you're on the final day of a 3-day event, and then they project a 2-minute highlight reel on these massive projectors up there. And they say, hey, you guys been seeing Chris running around? Well, he's been capturing moments. We got a special video to show you. And it was just a feeling of like pride in my heart that I was put, I don't know, almost on a pedestal. I was respected. I was called out in a good way, appreciated. And it was really fun that I have the best B-roll from day 1, the best B-roll from day 2. I'm doing testimonials from people that I'm cutting in. And so I have 3, I already have an edit, but then this is the magic part of it. Then I take people who are literally just on stage, like Ryan Holiday, one of my favorite authors, spoke at that event. I take people who are literally just on stage 2 hours ago. I take a couple of shots and I swap those in. And then now you're seeing it as part of this amazing video that's being shown on the projected screens. And when I say magic, it's because people were literally like, how did you do that? And it was like, It's movie magic.
Chris Van Loan II. Are you ready to hear your story?
Yeah, lay it on me.
I can remember coming home after a 12-hour day of a huge video shoot, opening the door to a house that wasn't quite my house. I was living there, sure, but it was also where my boss lived, who was trading part of my pay for a place to stay. The house smells a bit like cat pee because there's 5 cats crammed in there and several other employees. And we get in after the longest day and we start putting our stuff down and sitting down at the dining room and the kitchen table, just ready to rest and relax after working for such a long while. The boss comes around and starts asking us about the day, about what we did. Did we cover this? Did we do this? His wife comes around supporting him, asking us more grilling questions. And it felt like we never left the office. It was in this moment and in many other moments that I've seen where there was so much magic happening and so much brilliance occurring that really just wasn't getting captured or figured out. We were doing so much good work and nobody was seeing it. They were looking at this and expecting so many other things. And both then, when I was sitting there feeling this, wondering like what was possible for me. I had worked so hard. I had been in so many places. I had learned so much. I'd learned to capture beautiful moments. And it was just so painful to sit there and be working in an agency after so much things and just feeling like all of the value I was capturing was missed. It would take many years and a lot of costly and painful mistakes to really discover how to capture this and how to see my own value in this space. You know, I didn't just bring a camera to a thing. I was exploring with genuine curiosity, trying to find magic in every moment, in everyday things, from telling the story of a business or sharing the unfolding of an event. Finding those little moments like I used to seek out in weddings that made everything feel magical, that made everyone feel smile. And it wasn't just about what was happening there. I would put in so much deep research and care into everything so that I knew exactly what I was looking for. I knew how to engineer it. I knew how to create it. And most importantly, a love for the people that were there that I was capturing, not just letting them put on a persona of who they thought they should be, but finding that real magic inherent in the person, inherent in the event, inherent in who I was capturing and sharing. It would take so many years of honing this craft, of refining it. And I can remember one day still being lost in my own struggle and hearing one of my mentors and coaches tell me, you don't need more social proof. You just need to start charging what you're worth and believing in your own magic. I started seeing it for the first time. I can remember not much later going and working on one of my favorite projects at an event, creating the same day turnaround highlight videos, moving around through a room of 300 people, capturing the magical moments, and then putting it together in a 2-minute reel at the end of the day that would make people's jaws drop. I would make people come up and ask me, how did you do that? Getting shout outs from the stage of people who had worked so hard to be represented, feeling represented. And I saw my story told through them. And now, after so many years of doing this work and capturing this work, I see that there's so much more that goes into having moments like that than just being ready to capture them. I've learned the art and the strategy to engineer them consistently between big events and especially during big events. And I see that leaders just like you are often so lost in the everyday things of what you're doing and the brilliance, and sometimes limited by your own beliefs about what should be shown and what should be showcased, believing in a persona that you should be instead of being who you actually are. And that's why I'm here today to show you how this process, the process that I've developed over hundreds of events and with thousands and thousands of people recorded, can help share your story and showcase yourself in a brand new way.
Got goosebumps over here. Voice is cracking.
Good.
It's like you just turned 10 years of my life into a movie. Definitely you got some of your own magic, Kyle, and condensing that into something and capturing all the details.
Absolutely. I'm honored to be able to provide a similar form of magic and recognition that you do for so many other great people. And so it's been a absolute pleasure having you on the show today. And I hope that this serves you in your next chapter in sharing and showcasing yourself. And now, do you have any closing thoughts for us, and where can we go to learn more about you today?
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm gonna take away from our conversation is believing in your own magic. As you were calling that story back to me through all of the little moments, it really just brings up something that like no one sees, like this inner self that has been toiling away, trying to cultivate a greater belief in self. And so I feel like I need to write that down somewhere I can see it. Believe in your own magic. And like I said, so often the medicine we're trying to give others is also the medicine we have to serve ourselves first. But as far as where people can find me, can always check me out, reach out at Chris Van Loan II on Instagram, as well as Chris Van Loan II on YouTube. Looking forward to putting out some more stuff. I've got some really awesome stuff in the pipeline on long form content, on short form content. I have been so focused on telling other people's story. I need to kind of take all that and point it back at myself.
Beautiful. Well, I'm so honored to have given you the first glimpse at that, and I'm excited to see what you continue to do with this. Chris Van Loan II, thank you so much for joining us today on the Story Engine podcast.